No worries. It's all right.
Brown is teenage food.
Hello.
Can you hear everybody?
You're mobile.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Dave.
All right. She said.
He said she can hear me.
Yeah, it's not that.
The only one who can't hear you is your dad.
Sure. Directional, supposedly. Oh. Dave, these microphones, they two double ways. And supposedly, we might get 3 meetings out of it. So rather than buying brand new double A's all the time, I'm gonna go buy, we have 8 microphones. So I'm gonna go buy a bunch of double A rechargeables and a recharger. So that we can just keep recharging the batteries, save money in the long run that way. Okay, text message I sent out to you guys, I told you that what my plans were, Lee and I had met with Shelby last Wednesday, went over the budget, we made some more changes. Later in the day, I got the insurance numbers of 12.01, which I told you guys about last week. And I gave them to her saying, okay, bump that, because what we were going with is a 5% increase in the health benefits, because that's what it's been for the last 2 years. So when I got that 12.01, I got a hold of Shelby right away, told her to please recalculate using 12.01. She wants to get exact numbers from our insurance carrier. So as of this morning, she has not gotten any of those numbers. So I had to run to Rochester. And I kept checking. When I got back, I checked again, both files, nothing. So I don't want to give you the budget that we worked on with Shelby because I won't have accurate numbers for you. And like I said, Maureen is supposed to officially present that to. That's what the plan was tonight, and then we'd work on it. So that's been put on the back burner for right now. Probably have to make a special date to get together another workshop so we can take a look at that budget. Okay? The other thing I had on for tonight was on our assessor candidates. We had the 2 of them that we interviewed. We had number 1, the first person we interviewed, and number 2, the second person we interviewed. So, one thing I requested was for you guys to take a look at everything over the weekend so we could talk about who we might select for the position so we can appoint them at this coming board meeting next week. what I had budgeted in for was comparable to what Clarendon pays their assessor. I just looked at theirs. So that's the number I had put into the budget, which was about 5,000 more than what we had been paying in the past, but we were paying quite a bit less than what most assessors get.
Would the salary have to do with the experience too? Now, would we have two different levels?
I agree. I really don't know what kind of a number to put on it. I agree, I know where you're coming from, and I agree with you because of experience. You pay for experience. So that's why I honestly couldn't say what kind of a number to use.
You didn't get any number from them after our meeting?
No.
Since then, nothing?
No, the only stuff I got from either one of them, I forwarded to both of you. That's the only stuff and the only contact, and I didn't respond to those. They were sent to me, and I forwarded them off to the board. They're all afterthoughts from the interviews.
Put the two together, it'd be great.
Yeah, if we could afford. You know, the one thing and the question you had brought up about longevity. Of
I put it a little closer to me. So.
You had asked about the longevity, how long they planned on being around, and that candidate number 2 was talking the short term versus candidate 1 that is looking for a profession that they would be retiring from. You know, so that played a lot in my thoughts, as well as I'm sure everybody else's as well. Carrie can chime in anytime you want to here.
If we did. Two.
Yeah.
And he was also, trying to do right by the town. And, if we look at, because I also kind of think that that's something that, they both could look up that number and see what we were paying previously. And so I'm wondering if we potentially offer that if we were going to go with, the first candidate. And then kind of, go up from there based on experience if we were gonna go with the second. It was just a thought, but I didn't.
No, I'm in agreement with you on that. Did anybody happen to look up what some of the other towns are paying their assessors?
To allow me to do it right now.
Well, if we're thinking candidate number one, with lesser experience, do that too. So if you get a year's worth of experience, you can go to X, percentage, dollar amount. Since the approach that came to it that way. And I think But they may look at that too, but you want to sort of get it, even though, oh, this was what you're paying. I mean, your previous assessor, but he had years of experience. Or off of, gee, I'm not getting paid as much. But in my case, I'm telling somebody to be attacked, and tell me how much experience they have and what level they can do.
Does anybody have a thought down the road? How many other towns and union assessors are going to? If they, and if we don't treat this person.
Well, that's the other thing, assessors are.
Limited
Okay, yep. And Sean, on the assessors. Life expectancy, if it's a yearly thing or is it just? As far as, is there any contracts that were written in the past?
What you do is you make the appointment, and the appointment's for 5 years, I believe, with the state. Maybe it's 6 years. So, yeah, if we appoint someone, basically, but they could say, I quit, this is easy too.
Say goodbye.
Yeah. But what we do with the state is we say, okay, this is our assessor, we make the appointment, and the appointment's good for 6 years.
So on our, we're, I don't want to say stuck with, but that's our person, 6 years unless they change their.
Because of the agreement we've got with the state, but I do believe there are ways out of it. There has to be ways out of it.
Well, I'm sure if they weren't performing the duties. they
Exactly.
might remain
I just don't know how we would go about it. That's where the state would give us guidance. But they can just as easily say, well, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go here, I can make $5 grand more a year. Remember that the county offered us their services, part-timer, and it would be, well, 13 grand above what we've been paying. About 8 grand above what we're offering, or I budgeted for right now based on clearance, about 8 grand more. So that's why,
I'm a firm believer in negotiation. So like if we offer something and they come back and say, no, unfortunately, I'm for $2, you know, that, that we can negotiate.
Yeah, I mean, you would know what our ceiling, I mean,
yeah. I can do that between now and next Wednesday there if we decide on which one we would like to go with, candidate 1 or candidate 2. And I can call them up and say, well, this is what we were thinking of offering. Is that okay with you? For the part-time position.
yeah, that probably would be the obvious.
And that would open up a door, maybe they would counter. And then we can talk.
But no sense of holding next meeting.
Yes,
Figure in.
but I just want to open that door if we decide which one. I'm not, that's the only person I'll talk to up front first until they
Right.
agree.
Yeah, you don't wanna,
And then I can tell the other candidate, thank you, but we had going to hire this other candidate. I'm going through too much of that now and others. So can I just kind of like find out who you're leaning towards, one or two? I'm
leaning
looking at
towards-
Dave, Terry.
I'm leaning towards one. That's my gut feeling.
Yep.
Reason being, candidate one. Yeah. I think. Candidates. Small town public work. I think candidate two is a little overqualified, which I just know town size. And I think candidate one also is looking for it to be permanent. That's what she wants to do. That's what candidate one wants to do. So we need somebody that's gonna do it a year, especially if our agreement with the state is 6 years.
Yeah.
Candidate two is like in 3 to 5. Look at it. Candidate two also had a few missteps. As far as going off course and come back. Both qualified. He's definitely qualified. My gut saying candidate.
Okay.
Number one.
George?
I would say candidate one, we should get it away. We're paying. It's coming in. This is the price we're paying.
Margaret?
Person is arrested. Wants to be around a long time, it sounded like. Like they've said that person is from a small town. And, we think that would be our best bet to go.
Carrie?
Yeah, I feel like both candidates are qualified, but my gut is also moving to the one and the same as what, again, it's like.
Can you hear me, Carrie?
Barely, you're definitely the quietest.
No, you sent the mic. She's on the phone. She can't hear.
You can't hear the mics?
No,
Oh, okay.
she
All right.
only has the phone.
Okay.
She gotta speak up there.
I guess so. Okay.
Okay, then what I will do is, before this week is up, I will contact candidate number one and see what we can discuss so far as,
What were your thoughts, Sean?
pretty much, I agree with every one of you. I agree with every one of you. It's the the longevity that I was really leaning towards. I'd love to be able to get 19 the first year of our budget this year. But I'll have to see what she wants for that, but they both hit the marks. And as you said, he went off at times, and I think that's because he just has so much knowledge, he's so intelligent about this profession that he just started going off on tangents and then had to pull himself back. And I don't want to say he's a know-it-all, but he does know it all. I mean, he's mentor on a number of different divisions. He's past president of the Assessors Association of New York State, and all this kind of stuff. So I like that one, but it's the longevity is what I'm looking at. So, yes. Yep. We're all in agreement with number one. So I'll see what I can negotiate. Okay. Carrie, I don't know if you had heard me earlier, the budget, we're not doing anything with the budget. Cause I do not have any accurate numbers to give you at this time, because I didn't get them. Okay,
Yes, I have the,
okay. Yeah, that's where I was going next. Just a little talk about COVA. I've got another meeting coming up tomorrow night for the 4 supervisors and our attorneys. And we're meeting with Monroe to see what they can put together. We're all at the county task committee last week. Everybody was there at that one. We listened to COVA, and we listened to Monroe at that one. I'm sorry that what bothers me the most with COVA is that they were saying they needed like 200,000 for next year. And breaking down the number of calls in 2021, I worked out the numbers for all 4 towns, sent them to the other supervisors, asked them to double check them. They all said, yep, good. That's what we'll go with for our budget. A few days later, we get a phone call. I don't know where you got 200 from. We need 300,000 for next year. And like a day later, it was like 350,000. And then at the county meeting last week, they're talking 400,000. They can't come up with a set figure. I don't know. I asked them at the meeting, have they had an independent third-party audit done on their books? And they said yes. They gave the name some company in Pittsburgh, I believe it was.
Didn't they say they do that yearly?
They said they do it yearly. Nobody's ever seen a copy. So anyways, nobody seems to have the right answer. Nobody seems to have a grasp on the numbers or where money is going. You know, yes, I agree, you know, and don't get me wrong here. When it comes to the medical aspect, they're phenomenal. They're great people and they work their butts off down there in taking care of our communities. And just the financial aspect that nobody seems to have a grasp. And I know that through Medicaid and Medicare, they don't get the full allotment. And then there's others that are paid to the person that they serviced. And that person, and in some cases, do not hand that check over to COVA.
But it's way more than some cases.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be one of their
Majority.
biggest issues.
So I guess what I'm gonna ask you, is COVA considered a small business? Or is it like the fire departments that they're helped out by the communities?
They are, and that was brought up by a couple of county legislators at the meeting last week. And they told COVA point blank, you are not a volunteer ambulance.
Right.
You are a business, but you're not handling business.
That's what I was thinking. I read the thing in the, and that they need to, if they're a small business, they need to bring a consultant in there and get their act together and become solvent to, because the idea that you guys came back with, you know, at first it was like, yeah, okay, but it was just a Band-Aid and it was just gonna be, it was just gonna be taking it right along. There was nothing that's gonna change.
Yeah, all that was gonna do was keep them in the building and
keep
keep
them-
the trucks running.
Yep,
here.
yeah,
That's all it was gonna do.
And that's, they need a consultant, they need to have a business consultant come in and get things done.
Well, they say that they have an independent third party out of Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, okay, Pittsburgh. Why can't anybody get a copy of that? That's why you have a third party. That's the first thing I would say is, okay, you're asking for support. Show us the independent third party of what they come up with, what the real numbers are, and is that way you've got a template to go either way. Because if you have a third party looking over your books and, but you don't come up with that document, it could be anything. It could say anything. I wanna say, you know, I'm looking gift horse in the mouth, but.
Yeah.
You know.
We're not
if
gonna
you're
keep
looking for
bailing them out
support,
every year.
Come
Can't
up
afford
with
No.
real numbers. And then to change it 3 times, Sean, 4 times, as far as they need it. That's,
We,
that's the first red.
we can't do a
red flag
project
right there.
on that. That put it
50
up,
or more.
$50 per household in this county would put them a little bit over. What was it? Somebody said it was close to what their total operating budget is.
440.
Yeah, they have a $1.2 million operating budget.
Oh,
I thought it was a lot higher.
maybe it
I
was.
don't remember.
If they could bring somebody in there and be solvent and be transparent, show the community that they're trying, and then did a community like they did before, a community membership by, every household $100, I think they beat it. If they,
Forthcoming with information.
and I think that's, they have to be more transparent than half with him. So stay afloat.
And that's just basic business 101.
Do you, anybody know Dan Conrad? He has a candy store on Bank Street down there. He's
Did
on
he
the
used to be in
school-
hospital?
School board, I think he's on the school board or something there. Anyways, he called me this morning. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, you're correct. For the elementary school.
He's also on their board. He said he's been on it for the last year and a half, and he spent about the first 6 months just absorbing and listening, and he's just now getting vocal about it. Him and I were on the phone for quite a while talking about the situation. He was feeling me out on what I wanted, what I needed for us. And I said, number one priority is having the coverage. We need an ambulance service for our people that has a short call time. They would get there, not something coming in from Monroe County. He said that his plans, in fact, they're having a meeting now, I believe, at COLA. And he is telling them, I don't remember the woman's name, but asking her to become their business manager to operate. She teaches a class with another woman for GCC, I guess. But anyways, having her come on board to operate the management of their funds and everything. That's what he's pushing for, wants to get her involved. He's talking about a little bit of a shakeup in the administration. I don't know how far that goes. I don't know who's got the teeth to do that, whether the board members have that, or does the administration have that? And then the third part was, I'll think of it in a minute. Anyways, he asked me, if I would be willing to meet with them again, because we've met with them a couple of times now, so that we can talk about this. And he kept using the word about transparency and getting that information out to everybody. Oh, I know what the third thing was having an oversight board, having a representative from each town board. I said, we had discussed that already, and we had said that we wanted the town supervisors directly involved. Supervisors, not specific names, because this would apply to 5 years, 10 years down the road. So it'd be the town supervisor from each of the 4 towns. So he wants to have, and I guess it's set, Skip Draper has got the county legislative office available for us for Thursday night. We're having a meeting at that time, and I said, listen, I'm not going into this alone. I'm not gonna sit down and talk to you about it unless the other 3 towns are involved. I mean, It's either all of us or none of us when it comes to whether we go with Monroe or we go with Colton. So he understood that, and I said, you gotta call the other supervisors and get the okay. And I got a text from this afternoon saying that everybody will be there with the exception of Dick and Town of Albion, but Dick and I were talking afterwards. He said he's unavailable Thursday night, but he would have their town attorney at that meeting representing Albion, Town of Albion. So tomorrow night, we got a meeting with Monroe. Thursday night, we got a meeting with Colton. I told him, it's the 11th hour. How are you gonna make plans and say that you're gonna do this, that, and the next thing when you don't have a track record right now that's very good? We've gotta have proof. Words, you know, everybody can throw out those words, promising this, that, and the next thing, but
There's got to be consistency.
yep. So that's where we're at with it, you know. My general feeling right now, depending on what kind of numbers we get from Monroe, I'm leaning towards Monroe at this time. And I think the other towns
After
are.
the meeting, after the meeting we were at last week.
They
I
they
as well
went to the village. They told the village they needed 13,000 a month from the village, and they would cover the village,
Just the village.
just the village, for 13,000 a month. Then when they went to the board, they upped it to 16,000. Here we go with a number change again. You know, I just don't like that.
How many are actually on the board for?
I don't know.
My understanding is from several people that we haven't it is.
He brought that up as well, nepotism. And he said he's totally against all that. Like I said, there's supposedly might be a shake. Who knows? You know, once
Yeah.
again, it's,
Are they still thinking center and the east?
no, they're talking center only.
Just center.
The east, all three towns on the east side are all with Monroe at this time. That's the other thing with Monroe. Monroe has said that if they were to pick up the central, the 4 towns in the central, along with the 3 towns in the east, 7 towns, that they would station 2 24-hour ambulances, one like in Albion, the other one either in Holly or Kendall, yeah, up there. So there'd be 2 24-hour ambulances. If one is on a transport, let's say the Strong Hospital, they'd have a 3rd floater coming on in.
from
They
that
will
point.
also have a fly car in the county as well. So they made those promises
That was part of
insofar
their-
as coverage would be concerned. And where they would station them, it's anybody's guess right now.
Like our. Or
Like an
sit in it, go.
SUV where they can
Go.
get there real quick
Quick.
on the call and they can start administering anything until the ambulance gets there. Advanced Life Support, ALS. And they have the
Their
BLS.
first-
So well, that's what they're talking about. And with taking all 7 towns, that would benefit us insofar as what it would cost. So how much that is, that's one of the things I want to know tomorrow. Now, I'll tell you right now that in our budget, and we've all 4 towns, we don't know how much the budget, I put in 20. Just based on the numbers that I had worked out, based on COVID numbers, which was less than that, but I just rather be a little bit on the high side than be short. And then have to pull money out of general fund in order to cover the bills there. So I'm hoping 20 is a good number. I don't know. Don't know until I get the numbers.
Yeah, the main thing with goal would be, you gotta have a hard number. You can't be jumping all around.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes, no, and once it's a hard number, like, this is what we're looking at, this is the number. Jumping 50,000. It's a lot.
Yep. So that's where we're at with Oval and Monroe at this time. Yes,
We didn't pay anything for ambulance. We were like that out of the town budget. Is that something that would be like, that there would be a cost for us if we, have them operate on, or how would that work?
Yeah, is Monroe running as a business or are they
they run as a business.
getting money?
They run as a business, we would have to pay.
We would have to pay as a town.
Yes. Now, the other thing we're talking about, and I spoke with Bridget about this as well, the suggestion there from Bridget was she feels we should set up a ambulance district. In other words, each town should have, in order to have that contract with Monroe or even with Colville, we set up an ambulance district.
We don't have as many calls.
Right.
A district takes some time to reach. Involved in getting to the district.
It would take us a little bit of time for that, yes. But the one thing, as I point out to Dan this morning, what I don't like about having an ambulance district, much like having a fire district. I said, if Hova were to set that number, okay, Barry, you're gonna have to pay this much. Ames, you're gonna have to pay this much. Albion, you're gonna have to pay this much. In essence, we have no control. We have no say, just like with the fire district. What we do is we send that out in our tax bill. We collect it, just like I do here at the end of January. I write a check to, the fire district and I pay them the money that they said they had to have to operate. It would be the same with an ambulance district.
That's why I just did 20,000, we'd be looking at 731, 27, so say $30. If we write any tax, it's $30 ambulance.
You go by tax like that, you're taxing empty land too.
I went back.
Oh, households. So that's a possibility. I told him once again, there was taxing by, somebody had brought it up by tax ID number, taxed by household, or taxed, we go by the number of calls in that community. So that's what those are the options we looked at. And I said, you gotta tell us. But I don't like the idea of a district because when they haven't, they got a bad track record of not handling their money. And then all of a sudden they can say, yep, you owe me this, you owe me that, to the four towns.
Right.
The four towns end up giving them 500,000. And I don't mean the towns, I'm talking about the people in the town that are paying the taxes. And they get 500,000 and then they got another, they'll have an operating budget of 102 million. 1.2 million, and they may bring in 1.4 million. What are they gonna do with all that extra money?
I'm sure they'll find some.
Oh, yes. So, I don't know. I feel very,
They definitely need a business person or that third party and the actual paperwork from the third party. And they gotta come out with a number.
I still feel very uncomfortable with Bulldogs, sorry, just because of the financials. It's like we'll just be throwing money into a hole.
I like Fulton because they've been here forever and it's done, they do a good job as far
They
as
do,
medical,
I agree.
but especially when talking $20, we're talking serious money to help support local business.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
it's just like any business, SBA, and they just can't go, well, just give me whatever. They're gonna want 17 pages of where's that money going? So it is what it is. It's just it's business. It's so basic. It's crazy. If they don't like it, then say, these are the options. We've gone. Or if you need financial help, this is what we need before town, A, B, C, D. If you can't come up with these, then we're not gonna help support it. And we do have an option, Monroe. So they can't really hold us to the fire saying, well, we're the only thing in town. Well, technically we are, but we have options to replace.
I asked Dan, I said, what's in this for you? Why are you so gung ho to save Colville? You've only been on the board a year and a half. You're not an EMT or anybody. So what's in it for you? And he says, I'm on the board. I want to see them do well. He goes, but the bottom line is we need coverage. If it's not with Colville, then so be it, it's Monroe. He said, but the only thing that if Colville's not around, I only lose a board position. That's all. He said, I don't lose anything else. But he's trying to do well being a board member with Colville, and he's trying to change things around. But I told him, really, it's past the, it's the 12th hour.
Things will keep, I mean, before I went to vet school, I was an EMT. I did very limited. We have to do 2 shifts. But there was people there at that time, that they were devoted life to being there and not get paid.
That's the mentality of the country. The volunteer people. Everybody has other things to do. Everybody's on this. I mean, fire departments go through the same thing. Coaches for the league and softball. Just I hate to say it, it's just the new wave of this new world. So I remember when I shot in November.
Yep.
It was everywhere. Well, people are all grown up, have gotten older, and the next generation is like, I got better things to do. Why don't I volunteer?
And that was one thing I brought up with Dan also. I said that in my discussion with Monroe. I said, there's excellent people working. They know their job. They're doing very well. If, I emphasize if, Monroe were to come in here and take over 7 towns, emergency services, I said, you're gonna need extra people. You're gonna have to expand the number of employees and equipment. I said, a lot of those people, that's an income for those families, put food on the table to pay their bills. I said, you're not gonna shut the door on. He said, no, they would give them consideration as well. Consideration's a nice word. He said in the years past, they've hired 4 Colville people in the past, 1 full-time and 3 part-timers that presently work for Monroe. They said no, that they wouldn't look at Colville's employees. And I said, I don't want the door closed. You walk in and just bring in people. They know the neighborhoods. They know the people in the community. Homegrown right here. We don't need somebody working from Monroe and coming in from, they do Pittsford and Penfield and.
And some of our roads, I mean, it's good to know Eagle Harbor, Albion, Eagle Harbor, Noseville, Eagle Harbor, well, well, they'd be going, no idea. I mean, obviously, they've got GPS.
Yeah.
Still.
If it works half the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd have mine put made circles. What the heck's going on here? Okay, so that's the most I have right now insofar as Colville is concerned. Some data. Give you a little update on the contract negotiations. I had given them some numbers. The last contract negotiation we have, I've got another meeting coming up with them this Thursday. I'll be interested to see what they come back with. As I had said that with the budget, I didn't bring that folder in with me. right now, the average is for the whole county. I took numbers from all the MEOs. There's 33 MEOs in the, excuse me, County of Orleans. And I got the salary, per hour salary on every single one of them. And the average for the county was like 25.75 an hour. So our guys are at 24 something an hour and 24.50, 23.75 an hour. We have two at higher level and two at the lower. And I'd like very much to have them at least in the 22, right in the middle average is what I'm shooting for, because come next year, might lose a little ground, but at least they'll be right there in the middle. What everybody's getting paid. There's a couple of towns, their MEOs are getting paid upper $27.80 an hour. So our guys are at the lower end compared to the other MEOs. Benefits are all comparable. Benefits are comparable. The one thing I point out to them that I started last contract was that I am trying to get it to the point where eventually the MEOs will be paying 20% of their insurance and the town only pays 80%. It used to be 90 and 10%. So last contract I started working at so that we chiseled away 1% each year. So through this next contract, the two newer guys in 3 years will be paying 20%. And the other two guys, after the 4 years are up, will be paying 19%. So in other words, the next contract after that, they would be at 20%. So I told them I'm sticking to that. So that's especially here at 12.01, but that bothers me. Yeah, it's a big chunk of change for us at 12.01, but then they're getting caught, even though it's increased by 1%, as their livelihood. So they're having more money taken out of their check.
Pay 10%.
You pay 18. So that's where we're at with that right now.
Percentage.
Plus, I also said that because they were asking about our two large green energy projects. What are we gonna do with all that extra money? What are you gonna spend it on? So I said, well, the one thing's for sure that as me, Sean Pogue speaking, if we have both projects are up and running, and they should be by the end of 24, 2 years from now. If both projects are up, I don't see why 100% of everybody's property taxes, town property taxes are paid, for the next 25, 30 years. That's me speaking. That's up to the board to decide. But that's something that I don't see why we can't, because there's gonna be a lot of money coming in from both those two projects if they build them. But I said, I'll tell you what, in 2 years, let's put a notation in your new contract, a little addendum or something, stating that in 2 years, 23, 24, so let's say the end of 24 going into 25. If these two projects are up and running, the town and CSEA will sit back down at the table and talk about possibly increasing your wages at that time. I said, we can do that. There's no problem. So just so you know that I threw that one on the table, and that's when they decide, okay, we're gonna have to do some talking. So I don't know what they're gonna come back to the table with this Thursday.
To piggyback on what you just said, because the Heritage Community looks like just a rough, the town the financial that'll be coming from Torrey's Mine, that's when they're up and running.
Yes,
Nothing until they're
Correct.
physically producing and
correct,
same thing with solar.
correct.
So they're both based. on the
Once they
same-
start putting energy into the lines, that's when they're up and running, and that's when the town starts to receive the money. With Heritage, we had negotiated in the HCA, Host Community Agreement, we take those payments twice a year.
Once they're
Rather
up and
than
running,
one large lump sum, we take them twice a year, every 6 months,
when they're up and running.
when they're up and running, yes,
And it's not based on their production, it's based on what it should be.
exactly, on the plate,
Yeah, and if they don't reach that, we still get what
We still does.
you still get it. That's the agreement. And that'll be the same agreement with, the solar company. 200 megawatts. Go ahead, Carrie.
I just wanted to just say, I do have a bit of a concern. I would think that if you were to do something like that, you would see they have to be all responsible of the employees. And, I just want to be careful because if we're gonna like start increasing our cost of operations and decreasing our taxable income, we should really set ourselves up for, and I know that like, we're looking long term and we have to talk about a lot of different things.
Yep.
You know, that's all of that, but. It's just, you know, something that.
Well, that's one thing that I have already, and I spoke with the state about it as well, and that is getting an actuary. So that, okay, here's X number of dollars coming in. We take care of the property tax for town property tax for everybody in our town. We have X number of dollars left over. What can we do? And because a municipality will get their hands slapped if their general fund is too great. I mean, it varies from municipality to municipality. But if we have too much in savings, then they yell at us because we're not spending enough money. Yeah. So as a result, we have, like I said, I spoke with an actuary about how we can set this up. Because the one thing that bothers me, and I'm not gonna be here when it happens. But let's say at the end of 25 years, and those that own property in Barry have not been paying any taxes for 25 years on their property. It's gonna be the same thing that happened up there with the power plant up there on the lake. All of a sudden it goes from 0 tax to 100% tax. And I don't like that idea, so the reason I spoke with an actuary is if we put money aside now. So that in year 26, we pay a little bit. We pay a large part of that and the people in the town pay a percent, let's say 10 and 90%. The following year will be 20 and 80%. In other words, a larger chunk will be the town. So that'll be a gradual increase in taxes each year. Like I said, I'm not gonna be around here 25, 30 years from now. But if I were to be here 25, 30 years from now, I know I'd be hot under the collar if all of a sudden my taxes went from, I didn't any planning go ahead, go forward with this. So that's something I want to do with some of those monies. Once again, that's the town board talking about, okay, what are we gonna do with these monies? But first, we gotta see if they're, once again, let's see, sticks going in the ground and, panels going in the ground. The only project I know of that's going right now is this one up here, the Baird project. And that won't be up and running until next year. Maybe by Christmas of next year. I don't know the exact numbers. I just know that that one's split 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. It's what we agreed upon, and with that, county gets a third, school district gets a third, and we get a third. Because it's a small project, 4.5 megawatts. So, no, we're not gonna make megabucks off that. Okay? On the printers, I just wanted to talk more about the printers. What was the general feeling on that? Because I'm trying to budget for that. And I'm budgeting with the numbers, I looked at the numbers from Eastern that we presently have. Oh my God, the problems we're having with that big copier again, unfrickin' real. And we've had them in here.
If I remember right, I think I was thinking, go with the new copier that's bigger, that you're gonna be using everything. The ones that are still good, go to the judge and whoever needs one, that you can't use any copiers. So you put the money into one new copier. I think that's what it's.
Yeah, I think I agree with your, you definitely need the 1 mega copier, the over. But,
You put them all wired into that, so it
Right.
is,
yeah,
yeah.
It would be because of Wi-Fi. Bring it over Wi-Fi.
yeah, I mean, I think, I know the judges chamber and that. Walk into the next, to, when if he had to. Yeah, half of least resistance, come on.
And I think we ought to be looking into these major print jobs. Check out the outsourcing. If it's feasible.
When it comes to like the big stuff, like the spirals and the binding, the big production.
Yes.
All those binders right there, they're all Heritage, some of them are Hemlock Ridge. That's all their production. We didn't pay a dime on that stuff.
I actually was thinking the opposite. I was thinking to not do a few copiers, just do the small copiers, just like one, of her like putting the things that, she sent out, like this one, but she normally sends them like some sort of. And it seems like Dale has to walk over some of the highways, or, I mean, it's not like, I understand what you're saying, but it seems like the cigarettes that giving top ones and half of the big ones haven't really been working that well anyways. So there was that kind of adapting to using their smaller ones, and and still provide a convenience for the people who have to do with it.
Well, I guess I wasn't, what I was thinking was the one that looked like it was gonna do the job. It wasn't the big one, but the one that was gonna do the job as being the main computer. In their outlay, in their proposal. It was saying, okay, this is what we need, what's the computer that's gonna meet that, and that's gonna be for everybody. That's what I was thinking. When I was saying big computer. Be big for us, if we do that much paperwork, and then if we ever did have to do a lot, look into outsourcing.
For the big stuff, I mean, there's need, not as much town would do, but he's got me in, and I need it slow. Obviously, there's sometimes you need it up.
That's what, I like having that large printer because it can make all your copies, whether they're color or black and white, back to back, larger sheets of paper, and it staples them. So you're not sitting there afterwards and getting the groups that are collated and stapling all of them. But it staples them, saves a lot of time. Plus, this one we were talking about, it would also be a fax as well. But it would be a fax. we would not send the fax from the copier. It would have to go to our computer and then we would fax them. I'm trying to remember, how'd she say that?
And remote.
Two things would be two faxes instead of this, so with the huge printer, you can just, put in the fax number right in the computer, in the large printer, and send it directly. But there's a smaller one that you choose to actually scan it in and then fax it. You have to go back to computer and fax it.
I thought
There's also like, you can get a scanner for, like, a good quality, that doesn't pretty close to like $90. And scan things into the computer and fax it. Without like, if there is somebody who wants to scan.
That's just it, like Lee has one next to her computer, hooked up to her computer. And she sits there and you put a page in it at a time, and so you walk into the big one, you stack them in there, let it, tell it whether it's single-sided, double-sided. Scan it right through and it sucks 5 pages through in seconds. And I go back to my computer and I pull them up on my computer, save them and send them out.
Yeah, I mean, they do it, it's like, you can get scanners. Like there's, ones that you should do more than, but if you're only doing 10 pages. I guess it depends on the time, because the numbers were off. Like that, so this is the, but the printer is off. So it's hard to really be able to know, like, okay, how many scanners, how many faxes are getting sending?
Well,
It's
Just take a picture of it, email it.
the court demands it has to be faxed.
Really?
Yeah, the courts do.
they won't do it.
No. I mean, talk to your financial advisor. I'll bet you anything. They don't like getting any of your papers emailed, scanned and emailed to them. I know mine doesn't.
Sort of does.
Yeah,
Something to.
and the numbers that she gave us, copy figure calculations. Lee went back through and took a look at the numbers. And the numbers that she presented to us were only on 1 month. Where Lee went through and did a whole year's and put those numbers together, which were quite a bit different.
Well, were the numbers all off, or a lot of them? Was she was given because the counters were wrong. I mean, it was like quite a bit off too. It's hard to tell.
And they're supposed to be that's what Eastern, I feel like, is just like Cova. They can't keep anything straight. We're paying them to be monitoring the devices. They should know when we're low on toner and therefore supply it to us. That's part of the contract. They're supposed to be monitoring the number of copies going on. Here we have Lee and Maureen are taking down the numbers and sending them in. It's what are we paying them for?
I guarantee they just look at us as nothing community and we're their smallest fry, whatever. We should be happy that we service and for us compared to Rochester.
I do know that I was talking with Joe and he goes, oh, by the way, we had him here in the meeting with Brooke, Lee, myself and Joe, because I wanted the IT person here to make sure that connection with our system and everything would be no problem and what was needed. He said he was so impressed with them. They now have Toshiba taking care of all their stuff. They got printers there. So he signed a contract with Brooke. So that's just a little off this. Anything else? Cause I really, the budget was supposed to be number one tonight. So, that's
It'll
it.
be interesting what Cobble says.
Yeah.
That hard number is really what everybody needs to know. That would sway me big time. What, the only thing that really worries me is. It's like going to Santa Claus and saying, I'm getting a present or I'm getting a toothbrush, but now I want three presents. Well, pick one.
I think it was 2 years ago. It's Friday night at football game. I had to tell the second game. Because first one.
How many ambulances do you?
Well, they had three, but I think they take the one that breaks down all the time is basically maybe a backup. So they have two that are running, as far as I know.
Did Monroe say anything about incorporating their equipment if it didn't go that way? Or just they? But is that what they would do?
I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't asked them about that, you know. That would help, Cova insofar as paying off the bills.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And you know what
If they
gets
could-
me a
if
little
they
bit
could sell
there,
the bill.
Well, it would really get down to the 4 towns. Basically saying, this is what we can do at this number. If you can live with this rate and having this person overseeing you and this group, whatever. If not, thank you for your service. Wow.
you know, they complained about how much it costs to operate those ambulances. Last year I stopped in, was just shooting the breeze with Joe Quill. And he was telling me about how he has been, now I don't know since that conversation, but up to that point, he had been maintaining their ambulances for him. And basically, he was only charging them for parts. Labor, he was just, you know, writing it off. He said that was kind of like his donation to Cove. So when they're talking about, all, you know, an ambulance might be down, but they're only paying for parts the way Joe was talking. And this was about a year ago. I don't know about more recent. But he had both, he had one of their ambulances there, plus they had the one from Hamlin, which is also part of both. I don't know what's going on with Hamlin, but I guess they're under Cova, but yet they're a standalone. They're hanging in there. I don't know who handles their books.
And both for shared equipment or for insurance or.
I honestly don't know. I just know that Hamlin was ready to go under and Cova kind of like took over
Okay.
their business and saved them just about 5, 6.
They have a lot.
They've signed with Monroe already, Kendall.
Cobra's people. Are they all the people that work for Cobra? Are they
No.
all paid?
Everybody else.
Boy, that changed that.
Yeah.
That's why. Very, very few are volunteers. That's why they were told, you're a business. You're not volunteer ambulance. You're a business. Okay.
They don't have any services from like 11 to 7.
if somebody needs something, it's been rolling in that
Monroe,
situation.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, I figured. I'll tell them, you know,
Yeah.
so in the ambulance out of Genesee County cannot, other than mutual aid, if they're down and there's an injury or something, then they call out Monroe or Mercy Flight or Medina will step in under mutual aid, but we can't do a contract with Mercy Flight, their ambulance crew, because they don't have what's called a certificate of need. There's a 3-year process with the state to get that CON, which Monroe already has. Yep.
So the only thing, I mean, we're not paying anything for Monroe now, they're covering third of the time. But the only thing that we would be paying for then, that would allow them to be closer, would allow them to stay. Out in the- That's what you could pay.
Well, we're gonna be
Quick,
paying,
a response.
take a look at it this way. We're gonna be paying, whether it's COVA or it's Monroe, we're gonna have to start paying for an ambulance service.
you basically in the days of being.
Yeah.
No matter which way.
No matter which way we go, we're gonna have to pay for an ambulance service. So it's either COVA or it's Monroe.
Because the insurance.
That's the
Well,
biggest.
That's one of the biggest problems. I mean, they gotta be providers. You give a check $60 directly to somebody, that's never been seen. 80%. I see it in my little business. Not against anybody, but something came up. and you go, and go through it. That's where they're. Really not a big system. Same. Your wife and husband, I haven't seen the car. You have liability paid in full, the other car gets paid in full, you have the left on the one side, you can fix the gun, and take the money around. George, if I see your vehicle.
Don't be spread.
Yeah.
Watch it.
You know, there's a lot of.
Yeah, Chris Bork had pointed out last week's meeting that where he was kind of shocked when he received a bill from COVA covering the last 18 months. They hadn't billed the county, the sheriff's department in 18 months, and all of a sudden, for the last 18 months, he got a bill. Is that how much it was?
How much was it? That just goes to show you how poorly their business is. So
Supposedly they've gone internal now, and it's this person that's gone internal. They got rid of the external company that was doing this. And we're not following through with trying to go after deadbeats, and obviously not going after, getting bills out on a timely fashion.
Sure. More because it was over.
A year.
so it showed the.
Okay, guys, that's about it.
Done?
Anything from you, Carrie?
No,
Enjoy. Bye-bye. Just push the green button. No, I mean on the phone. Turn that off with that little button, gray button on the bottom.